ईश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे seventh or eighth? Seventh is over, eighth. Okay. Oh, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ. Just a minute. This is working. Okay. Adhyasa Lakshana Bhashya. Now, the first he asked Koyam Adhyaso Namaiti. What is this Adhyasa? Where is this Adhyasa? So Swamiji interpreted, this question can mean two things. One is he just wants to know what is a question, wants to know what is Adhyasa. Second, it can also mean an objection. How can there be Adhyasa? Is there such an Adhyasa? How can there be such? So it is an objection, a kind of a challenge. So as a reply to this, the answer proceeds. Adhyasa Lakshana. Sma Uchate Pratyaha Siddhanti. Now Siddhanti answers. Those who are referring the book, 8th point, number 8, Adhyasa Lakshanam. To Pratyaha Siddhanti Uchyate Smriti Rupaha Paratra Purvadrishtavabhasaha. This is the Bhashya statement. Now we give the reply here. Adhyasa is, now here is a definition, Smriti Rupaha Paratra Purvadrishta Abhyasaha. This is the definition of Adhyasa given. Now it simply means superimposition means Smriti Rupaha. Okay? Smriti Rupaha means here something like a memory. Something like a memory. Therefore, a memory like knowledge. Smriti Rupaha means memory like knowledge of a previously seen thing. Purva Drishta. Of previously seen thing in relation to something else. This is Adhyasa. A memory like knowledge of a previously seen thing related to something else. This more, as we explain, we will understand it better. Now, paratra vastuni parasya tadrupasya avabhaso adhyasaha. In the definition, a part of it we take it, the summary of it, the essential part of it we take, and it becomes clear, paratra parava bhasaha. That's all. Paratra parava bhasaha. Paratra avabhasaha. That means seeing something else as something else. Adhyasa only means this much. Seeing something as what it is not. I think that the way of explaining is important. Seeing a given thing as what it is not. This is called Adhyasa. Paratra vastuni parasya atadrupasya. Paratra in one place. Parasya avabhasaha, something other than what it is. Atadrupasya, something else. Avabhasaha, this is Adhyasa. Idam cha Adhyasa samanya lakshanam. Now, we have understood the essential meaning, the central meaning, central idea of this Adhyasa, though it is presented technically. Okay? Though this is presented technically, just noting down something. Though it is presented technically, the simple meaning of it, which can be easily understood by everybody, Swamiji has given. Adhyasa is seeing something as what it is not. That means something differently. Seeing a thing differently from what it is. differently from what it is adhyasa. This is the essential meaning of it. If this is the essential meaning, why not Shankaracharya say this same meaning directly? He could have told the same meaning directly. Now this just now we have explained, we have taken out the essential meaning of it. We had taken out the essential meaning of it and explained adhyasa means seeing it differently from what it is. Differently from what it is. Understanding it differently from what it is. This would have been simple, isn't it? When this is the case, then why this technical definition of smriti rupaha paratra, means it is something like a memory of a memory like knowledge of something before, and seeing here, why this putting memory and all these words are necessary, complicating. Okay. So for this Swamiji explains idam cha adhyasa samanya lakshanam. This technical way of presenting this definition, which is that smriti rupaha paratra purva drishtava bhasaha, has some purpose to achieve. He is giving a general definition. General of what? Adhyasas are of two. One is the worldly adhyasa, worldly events. Another is directly this atma anatma adhyasa. So worldly events is you mistake anything for any small thing, any objects in life as something differently. Like a rope is mistaken for snake. A seashell that is Shuktika seashell is mistaken for silver, or rope is mistaken for snake, or you mistake one person as another. So many common mistakes happen in life. So these are the many common mistakes in our life. These are called the worldly events of mistake. Worldly experiences of worldly events, or worldly experiences, worldly, what you say, events, worldly events of mistakes, okay, whatever you say. Another is the whole life itself is atma anatma. The whole world, the whole jivatvam is an adhyasa upon the atma. This is the total adhyasa, total life, total world is adhyasa. This we call as adhyatmika adhyasa, that is atma anatma adhyasa, moola samsara karanam. Another is worldly events of adhyasa, worldly instances of adhyasa. I think that is better, not events, worldly instances of adhyasa. That's what I was looking for, a better English word. Okay, worldly instances of adhyasa. Now, these two adhyasas have some similarity. At the same time, in some point they are different. Common is both are mistaken, both are mistakes. Both are misunderstandings, both are mistake. This absolute world, this whole world, including the Jiva Bhava, is adhyasa upon the Atma. This is the total adhyasa. And it is the cause of the entire world, entire prapancha, entire life. This is not that, this is only a given event, given object is mistaken. So a given object is existing in time and place. Okay, a given object like rope exists in one time, in one place. Therefore, the adhyasa also begins at one time, because you don't find snake all over life. Do you see that snake all over life? Only when you come to look at the rope, that too lying in a dim light, that too in a dim light, it is at that time that you see that it is a snake. Therefore, the worldly instances are time-bound instances and limited experiences. Okay? There are one or two differences. One difference is worldly instances of adhyasa is time-bound adhyasa. It takes place within a time. Time-bound in the sense, it is an instance occurs within a given time, at certain point of time. Whereas this adhyasa is anadi. Anadi means our life adhyasa is beginningless, because time itself is part of adhyasa. Okay, the very time, space, the world, jiva bhava, whole thing is. So our life adhyasa, that is atmanatma adhyasa or adhyatmika adhyasa, doesn't begin in time, because it includes the time and the world and everything. So this can be called in shortly, adhyatmika adhyasa is timeless adhyasa, that is anadi adhyasa, beginningless, let us say, beginningless adhyasa, and the worldly instance is a beginning adhyasa, an adhyasa which has a beginning. So this is one contrast, one difference. Worldly instance has a beginning in time, and this life adhyasa, this adhyatmika adhyasa is beginningless. That is a given instance, and this is the whole life. This is the second point. The second difference between that and this is, I am telling this because this is very important. This is where created problem with the post-Shankarites and Shankaras. And Sachidananda Swamiji presented Shankara's adhyasa, and this you will see for yourself. People without reading, I tell you, it may be, there are many good people. I think the most unfortunate thing about human nature, and also partly Indian nature, that we are highly prejudiced people. I am sorry to say, the all great people, sincere people are also, even sincerity also carries prejudice, because the prejudice mars, spoils your sincerity, and this is very unfortunate thing. After seeing these things, I became extra careful, extraordinary careful, because even by following great, very popular gurus in the world who carry these kind of prejudices, and it becomes a very big problem. But anyway, this we shall see more and more. So people have to be very careful. Swamiji brought out this, the speciality of Sachidanandendra Swamiji is this, and in fact his openness, his creative thinking, his openness, his great intelligence, his great discovery has become a reason to boycott him. Okay, to boycott him, set him aside, and also do some kind of maligning also. Because of the people's closed mind, very prejudiced mind. What is a, if he were living in some other place, in fact he should have been honored for it. Oh my God, he brought out a great thing from Shankara's thing, and he should have appreciated, he should have honored for his great thing. But for his great thing, he is subjected to this kind of isolation. Killing him by silence, modern people follow. The same thing our traditional gurus and acharyas and their followers, blindly out of prejudice they are doing it, killing them by silence. Okay, this I have to, my nature being blunt, I am pointing out. Okay, we will not discuss much, we will leave this thing and proceed. Okay, this is what we see them. So, to be able to see this distinction, people ask, what is the difference? What is that Swamiji brought out specially? Swamiji explained, but some places you have to still minutely, very, very subtly we have to point out. Therefore, I am pointing out like this. So one is the differences between worldly instance of adhyasa and this adhyatmika adhyasa. What they did is they mixed up both. That is the biggest mistake. They presented this adhyatmika adhyasa like a worldly instance of adhyasa. Why? The worldly instance of adhyasa is a sadi adhyasa. Sadi means adi. That which begins, has a beginning, is a sadi adhyasa. Means adakki adi ide, adakki beginning ide, daniki modalu unnadi. Andre an adhyasa which begins in time. Worldly instances. So, but this adhyatmika adhyasa is anadi adhyasa. Therefore, this anadi adhyasa, they equated this anadi adhyasa, or they took this anadi adhyasa as something like a worldly instances of adhyasa. The worldly instance of adhyasa takes place within time, and also two or three differences are there. This one point I told you. I'll tell you one more difference. Two more differences. Totally three differences I tell you. They messed up. They mixed up these things and they misunderstood, and that created that created these differences. So second point is that this worldly instances of adhyasa takes place regarding the worldly object. Okay. Means one object is mistaken for another object, and the subject remains the same thing. See, when rope is mistaken for snake, it is me, the subject, that is pramata. I am the same pramata, same subject is seeing the snake. After the snake is corrected, when the light is brought and the rope is recognized, the snake mistake gets corrected, you come to recognize that it is originally rope. Okay? After correcting it, so the subject remains the same, only regarding the object alone the mistake takes place. Okay? One object is mistaken for another object, whereas the subject who sees the snake, same is the subject who sees the rope also. That means, under the mistake takes place regarding the object alone, the subject knower of the snake is the same as the knower of the rope. In knower there is no change. Okay? Therefore, this is the nature of worldly instance of adhyasa. Whereas, come to this adhyatmika adhyasa. Whereas this adhyatmika adhyasa, here even the subject and object both are adhyasa. The pramatrutvam or jivatvam also equally adhyasa along with the world. That means subject, object, the entire avastha, the knower and the known, jnatru and gneyam, both put together is complete. Both together the entire world is adhyasa upon the Atman, which is Advitiyam. Atma, which is neither subject nor the object. Okay. Which is neither subject nor the object, which is the common basis for subject and object. Therefore, in adhyasa, subject and object, both of them simultaneously come. Whereas the worldly event of adhyasa, only snake is seen, subject is not adhyasa. Okay? Worldly instance of adhyasa, laukika adhyasa we call it. Worldly instance of adhyasa, like mistaking the rope for snake. In this adhyasa, only object is mistaken for another, and the subject remains no adhyasa. Subject remains real. And once snake is corrected, the same subject comes to see the rope. Therefore, in the subject there is no adhyasa. This is the worldly instance of adhyasa. Okay? Whereas adhyatmika adhyasa, atma adhyasa, even the subject, jnatru, that I am a jiva, that I am seeing the world. There you see, again I am comparing, contrasting so that you understand better. In the worldly instance of adhyasa, object is mistaken but subject is satyam. Object alone is adhyasa. Subject is satyam. Whereas in this thing, subject to object both are equally adhyasa. This is the most important point. Subject and object both are equally adhyasa. Sakshi alone is anadhyasta. By subject we mean jnatru, the knower. The knower is related to known. Subject is related to object is related to subject. Jnatru, gneyam, jnata, gneyam, gneyam, jnata, they are together at one level. Okay? Jiva and Jagat, they remain at one level. That means when there is adhyasa, both appear. When there is no adhyasa, both go away. That means both come together, both go together. They cannot be separated. They should be taken as one block. Okay. This is the second difference. They messed up. How they messed up, we'll see later. Third reason is, in the worldly event, in the worldly instance of adhyasa, when we mistake the rope for snake, snake as an object exists elsewhere. Here in the rope, the snake which we see in the rope, is a mistake, no doubt. But there is a real snake somewhere. There is a real snake also exists somewhere. Okay. There is a real snake exists somewhere, and that seeing the snake here alone is a mistake, but the snake as a snake itself is not a mistake, because a real snake exists somewhere. Here alone it is a false snake. Okay. This is the worldly event. Whereas in our Atma, in this world, we are seeing this world, Jiva and Jagat. There is no another Jiva Jagat to compare with. Okay. Here, for a mistake, for every mistake there is a reality. When you mistake a seashell, that is a Shuktika, Mutyapu Chippa, Kappe Chippu in Kannada. So when we mistake this seashell for snake, for silver, the silver is a mistake, but there is a real silver elsewhere. That means, in the worldly instance, wherever you mistake, wherever you have a misunderstanding, there is a parallel real entity somewhere. Okay. That means, unless you have seen something real, mistake won't take place. Suppose a person has never seen snake in his life. A person who has never seen snake in his life cannot mistake rope for snake. He would mistake it for a garland. He would mistake it for a stick. He would mistake it for a crack in the earth. He would mistake it for something else. Okay? The crack on the earth. Bhuchidra, we call it. A crack on the earth. Or he would mistake it as a stick. He would mistake it as a garland. He would mistake it as something else. Something else which he has seen somewhere in his life. If a person has never seen snake in his life, he has no idea of what is a snake, and thereby he could not misunderstand rope for snake. Okay. To be able to mistake, to be able to wrongly think, erroneously think that rope for snake, in order to think erroneously snake, you must be aware of the snake. You must have seen it. You must know what is snake before. If you have never seen, never known snake before, you would not mistake it. This is nature of worldly instance of adhyasa. This is the nature of worldly instance of adhyasa. Whereas this Atma Adhyasa means this spiritual adhyasa, what happens? This me, Jiva Bhava and the world we are seeing. And we have no another world, we have no another Jiva to compare with. Okay? In the worldly instance, to be able to do adhyasa, you must have a real thing somewhere, and somewhere the real you must have seen it before. Okay. The real one you must have seen it before. But here, there is no another real, because there is only one world. There is only one Jivatvam and one world. Jiva world put together is one adhyasa. There is only one Jiva, one world, and there is no second Jiva as a basis to remember, to compare with. There is only one world, and this world is adhyasa directly. There, to be able to see an erroneous snake, you must have seen the snake elsewhere. Okay? Because earlier seen snake, you remember. Remember means there is a samskara. A person who has seen snake somewhere in his life before, either directly he has seen, or he has seen in a film, or he has seen in a picture, somewhere he must have seen some idea of snake. He must have some idea of snake. And that snake leaves an impression, a samskara in his mind. Okay. The snake which he has seen before, that snake leaves some samskara in his mind. And when he is looking at this rope in a mandandakara, in a dim light, okay, in some what you call semi-darkness, when he sees the rope lying there, so he mistakenly thinks that it is a rope, it is a snake, the snake which he has seen somewhere before. That means for making a mistake, you need a previous memory. Okay? You need a previous samskara, a previous experience. You may call anything. Previous experience of snake, or previous memory of the snake, or previous samskara of the snake. All these three mean one alone. Here, they may be different, but here, previous experience of snake leaves samskara, and that samskara alone comes now as a memory. Okay. Previous experience, it leaves samskara in your mind, and that samskara arises again as a memory now. So some memory of the snake should remain in your background of the mind to be able to mistake rope for snake. Okay. Otherwise, if you have never seen snake in your life, no mistake is ever possible. You might mistake it as something else, but not as a snake. Because you should have some previous samskara of the snake. Okay. This is the nature. This description is relevant to the worldly instance of adhyasa. But when it comes to this adhyatmika adhyasa, the world and jiva bhava, you don't have another world which you have seen before and have a samskara of the prapancha. See, have you seen another world and have a samskara of the another prapancha and then come to mistake here? This cannot be applied, because this definition, this explanation that you must have seen before and carry the samskara and remember it, all these three apply to the worldly event, worldly instance of adhyasa, and this doesn't apply to the life adhyasa. Life means the whole samsara adhyasa, the whole adhyatmika adhyasa, because only one world you have. There is no previous world and later world. There is no samskara of the world. There is no memory of the world. World is world. Directly you are seeing jiva bhava in the world. Okay? This is the third difference. Now I have told you three differences. Okay? A worldly difference. There is a world, adhyasa, which is a worldly instance of adhyasa, is one, and this samsara adhyasa or adhyatmika adhyasa is another one. So between these two, these are the three differences. I have already explained these three differences in detail. I'll just once again name them. The worldly instance of adhyasa has a beginning in time. This samsara adhyasa, adhyatmika adhyasa is beginningless. First one. Second one, that is an object is mistaken for another object. Subject is not mistaken. Only one object is mistaken for another object in case of worldly instance of adhyasa. Here in the samsara adhyasa or the adhyatmika adhyasa, subject and object, the entire avastha, even the jiva bhava is included in adhyasa. Subject and object are not two separate adhyasas. See, some people make it, some post-Shankarites make object adhyasa, subject adhyasas are two concurrent adhyasas. Vidyaranya seem to present like this in Panchadashi. Okay, some people presented as two simultaneous, concurrent, not simultaneous, two concurrent adhyasas. Or some people say only one is adhyasa, another is not adhyasa. So this kind of confusion I think we'll discuss more later. But at the moment, just to remember only this much. In the worldly instance of adhyasa, object is mistaken for another object, whereas in samsara adhyasa or adhyatmika adhyasa, subject object together as one block, like two sides of a paper. If you take a paper has two pages. Okay, subject on one side, object on another side. When you lift the paper, both the pages come together. Okay, this side of the page, two faces, two aspects of the paper come together. You can't separate them. Take one page separate and another page separate. You can't divide them. Okay, because once you lift a sheet, both the sides come together. When they come together, they come together. When you throw them, they go together. They come together and go together because they are not two. Okay? They are not two. They are one. One sheet. Similarly, in samsara adhyasa or in our adhyatmika adhyasa, subject and object are two aspects of one experience. And you see for yourself. They are the two aspects of one experience. You can't divide them. Subject first and object came later, or object first came first and subject came later. Nobody can think of. When you wake up, are you the waking person first and the world later? Or when the world came first and you became the later? See, subject and object cannot be put as a sequence, one before the other, one after the other. You can't say both are. In fact, the very word both is wrong. There is no both. It is one. Okay? This is important. And they mistake it. Post Shankarites, they take the world as separate, and then the subject is separate, and then the Jiva, Ishva, Jiva and Jagat. This creates a further confusion. Once you divide it, then trying to give a different explanations and go on and on and on. We don't discuss here. I think somebody who is interested, I think I too love to do that. It is the most complex if you want to learn. If you want to learn the entire Advaita, all the various variations, I don't mean differences, okay, you may call differences also. Variations within Advaita, okay, all minor variations, major variations, lot of differences within the Advaitins, right from the Panchapadika Bhamati onwards until recently the 19th, 20th century. Within the Advaita Acharyas, regarding each point there are differences, lot of variations, branches, still further branches. On each point there are differences of opinion. Okay? All these things, one fortunately or unfortunately, better say fortunately, Appaya Dikshita was a person in 18th or 19th century. I think 18th end or 19th century, let us take. I think 19th century. Appaya Dikshita was a great scholar of Tamil Nadu. He also wrote around 200 books. People say Sachidananda Swamiji comes late next to Appaya Dikshita in his scholarship. He also wrote 200 books. Appaya Dikshita was a great scholar, multifaceted scholar. That means expert in many branches. Appaya Dikshita wrote a book called Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha. And he named it slightly differently, Siddhanta Bheda Sangraha. Sangraha, a compilation of Advaita Siddhanta, Bheda, compilation of variations within Advaita. Okay? Compilation of variations within Advaita Siddhanta. Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha, Siddhanta Bheda Sangraha. If you study that one book, on each point, how one Acharya told, how another Acharya told, again another Acharya, again another Acharya. On each point there are various views about the same point. Then he takes up another point. How Panchapadika told, Vivarana told, then Vidyaranya told, then somebody told, like this different. Then he takes another point. Like on each point there are variations. Shruti Pramana or not. then how Jnanam takes place? And Jivan Mukti. Does Jivan Mukta continue to have Ajnana or not? Regarding that. So regarding each point, there are various views among the Advaitins alone. And to read so many books, around 50, 60 books, is not easy. All of them are in Sanskrit. Some of the books have got a very highly technical, Tarkic language. Tarkic, logical language. And Mimamsa and all that. Appaya Dikshita, being a great scholar, studied all these 50 to 60 books. And he compiled all those variations in one place. Luckily, we get in one book, Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha. In one book, you find all these variations. Swamiji has studied all of them thoroughly. He is aware of them. Sachidanandendra Swami. I don't know whether there is anybody these days, or hardly maybe one or two countable in our hands, a few scholars who have studied all these minor variations so thoroughly. Therefore, in Adhyasa, because of these variations, the same thing is explained differently. See, when there are so many variations within the Advaita, I don't understand why our traditional people are refusing to understand, refusing to accept. Okay. Echo is coming. I think I can't do anything. Or shall I wait? Okay. ఇప్పుడు లేదా? ఇప్పుడు ఎక్కువ లేదనుకుంటాను. Now it is okay. 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 So in Appaya Dikshita's thing variation, but I am unable to understand among the traditional people when they accept so many various interpretations of each point within Adhyasa. When Sachidanandendra Swamiji brought out a kind of interpretation of Shankara Bhashya without compromising the basic Shankara Bhashya, then I think in my standpoint everything is okay. I have plugged it properly. ఏమండి ఇక్కడ ప్లగ్గింగ్ సరిగ్గా చేశాను. I think somewhere mistake maybe in your, మీరే ఒకసారి స్విచ్ ఆఫ్ ಮಾಡಿ again you do it. మీరే ఒకసారి స్విచ్ ఆఫ్ చేసి స్విచ్ ఆన్ చేసుకోండి. Probably the mistake may be in your cell phone. Okay, let me continue. Sometimes happens, you can't have. So, I don't understand why can't they accept Sachidanandendra Swamiji's is another version of within the so many interpretations, so many variations, so many interpretations, so many versions. Why don't they accept Sachidanandendra Swamiji's interpretation is an another version among these so many things within Advaita? No, they don't want to. They want to boycott him, and they have done boycott. Even now they have been doing it. There are a few people out of their own individual openness coming and studying Swamiji's books, and some people avoid them, boycott them. They don't want to take his name. If they take his name, some demeaningly, disrespectfully take his name. Some people secretly use his books, but they don't want to refer to him. They buy his books and read for themselves, but outside they don't want to say. So this kind of very, very strange behavior is going on. Yeah. No, somebody else. Yeah, I understand. Somebody else from far away in Rajamandri is feeling the echo. I think he's the only one listening from far off place. Most of them are our Kannadigas within Karnataka. He's the only one far away somewhere. Probably because of the distance he's feeling. Anyway. Now he's okay. He's also okay. He's also able to hear clearly. Yeah, it's okay now. So, now you see, this is what I'm telling. When another person comes out with a good convincing, now when I asked them to point out where the mistake is, they are unable to point out. Because Swamiji's explanation seems to be very convincing, very logical, and very according to Anubhava, and seems to be good, seems to be right in all angles. See, we are not able to find fault with it, yet we want to boycott. I am pointing out because not to disrespect them, because they are our own people, highly respectable people. They are our own gurus and highly respectable to us. Somewhere India has lost, because of this last 200 years of intense intellectual slavery. Before that, there was a socio-economic slavery during Muslim rule. During the British rule, we have suffered a lot of intellectual slavery, and I think we are retaining that intellectual slavery. India, which is known for its intelligence, known for its creativity and openness, if Indians start misbehaving with our own internal Indians, I think it's very unfortunate. I tell you, Sachidanandendra Swamiji's books are becoming more popular in foreign countries. More foreigners are reading. I think a time may come, they will start appropriating Sachidanandendra Swamiji and start criticizing our own traditional people. A time may come, our traditional people will be unable to stand them. See, our own great intelligent scholars, you disown them, and foreigners own them. And as Rajiv Malhotra says, if you disown our own things, and foreigners will own them. Okay. They are using lot of Buddhism against our own broad Hinduism. They are taking Buddhism, they are using Buddhism. So similarly, they may use, and already more and more foreigners are reading Sachidanandendra Swamiji's books, and they find that he is presenting Shankara's teaching perfectly well, correctly. Now more and foreigners are taking interest, and our people, I say, there are so many versions, so many differences. Out of them, why can't they take is another strand? Strand means among the many threads, one more thread. Among the many versions, one more version. Why can't they take? Why do they have to boycott our own Indian great traditional orthodox scholar Sachidanandendra Swamiji, who has not violated any orthodox rule, no Mimamsa rule, no logic rule, no Vyakarana rule, nothing he has violated. In fact, he has done whole India proud. Advaita Vedanta, Advaita tradition he made proud. He has not disrespected anybody. He respectfully talked about our traditional acharyas and commentators and everybody. And he brought out with his own great genius. In fact, he is a great asset for Hindu tradition. But unfortunately, they want to lose him. They are waiting for Sachidananda Swamiji's books to disappear. I don't know. I think people should give thought to it. Why this kind of kanna muchale, I dagad mutalu eke, I don't understand. Let people become open. Okay? If you ask them personally, privately, yeah, what he says is true. But publicly they refuse to say. Why this kind of slavery? This intellectual slavery. Okay? Let people be bold. If you have no freedom, if you have no freedom to think, that too in Hinduism, that too in Advaita, then where else can you hope? Can you hope in Islam? Or in Christianity or communism? Where can you hope to have? Or anywhere else within Hindu traditions, some of them have like kind of closed mind. If you can't do that, where else can you do that? Therefore, at least we could do this thing, and then they can present it as an alternative view that somebody explains it differently. Nobody is asking them to blindly follow everything, this thing. But why boycott a person and demeaningly talk about a person? This is too much. I think all our great respectable acharyas, I hope that somebody will, some people are misleading them. I think they are briefing him wrongly. We don't know who are some people. Some jealous people are informing the acharyas wrongly, and they, without verifying it, they also carrying the same negative opinion. I feel, let them come out openly, read the books for themselves, and not depend upon their scholars, their Asthana Vidwan or somebody who is briefing them wrongly. I think if they read the books for themselves, they'll definitely come out. They'll become open. Okay? At least they can accept that another version. But if you like it, you can see the fact in it. Swamiji openly presented without disrespect to anybody. He presented very clearly. Now, just now I have presented 3 differences. Do you see anything wrong, any unacceptable thing? You see them very clearly, what we have presented. I see we are going to lose. Foreigners will appropriate all Sachidanandendra Swamiji. A time will come, Shankara tradition will continue. The true Shankara tradition will continue when America and Indians will become non-Shankarites. Okay? If you set aside and suppress Sachidanandendra Swamiji, a time will come. I am warning you right now. You means us, not you. I am warning ourselves. I am also included in it. So I am warning us Hindus that a time will come, as Rajiv Malhotra has already warned us, and they will appropriate Shankara tradition, and India will be following something deviated, slightly deviated tradition, and Shankara original will be in America, and they will appropriate it. I tell you, India has already suffering from many deficiencies, and there will be one more suffering if you are not open. Okay? Anyway, I have done, being a very blunt man, and those who have been listening to me, those who are very angry with me left, they stopped listening to me. But those who have got forgiven me with my blunt nature and have a patience, I don't expect you to follow my blunt nature, but at least you can forgive me, because this is my nature. I can't stop it. I can't change it. So those who have patience and forgiveness towards my blunt nature can listen. You can take other points and leave my blunt nature to me. Okay. So they have seen now the three differences I have pointed out, and the post-Shankarites mix it up. Mix it up means one point I say, and we'll proceed with the topic, because time is also less. Of course, there are 7 minutes are there. 7 minutes in the watch. So these differences, that the object and subject both are equally in Adhyasa. Third point which I have told, this is also important. I think you later think over these differences. Keep this in mind. This will help you to understand Sachidanandendra Swamiji. Help you to see the difference between Sachidanandendra Swamiji and post-Shankarites. These three differences are main differences. Why they interpret Adhyasa differently? Why Swamiji interpreted Adhyasa straight away in your Anubhava and according to Bhashya? When you are reading Bhashya, you can see their interpretation is going away from Bhashya. And why these differences? They keep on asking me. I have been telling in my classes, at our committee member like Venkat Narsappa, they asked me several times, Swamiji, what is the difference? You tell us in one small booklet, or in one talk you tell us 1 or 2 talks, what are the differences? I told, I have been telling in all my talks. Still he says, still the differences are not clear. But then I don't know. He asked me, I don't know whether he has understood later, now he passed away. But he was sincere in this respect, he asked me. I told, in all my talks I have been telling. I have been telling very clearly, point by point, to the extent that that they are getting bored also. How many times I repeat, people get bored sometimes. We have understood, don't kid us, we are understood. And still patiently I repeat them, because they are asking me again, what is the difference? What I have been telling you. So this is the difference. So these 3 points, if you remember, throughout Adhyasa you will understand the difference between Sachidanandendra Swamiji and other commentators on Shankara. The differences you will be able to understand if you remember these 3. Okay? These 3 most important. Later, after this talk, you again think of them or note down in your notebook somewhere, these 3 differences. Okay? And you see them, the things will become very, very clear everywhere. The third point I tell you again, I just repeat it. The first point is Sadi Anadi. They call worldly instances Sadis Anadi. And they take Adhyatmika Adhyasa also as a Sadi. This is the thing. That means they try to understand this Adhyatmika Adhyasa with the help of, with the model of worldly instance of Adhyasa. Whatever the quality, whatever is the character of worldly instance of Adhyasa, the same character they tried to see in the Adhyatmika Adhyasa. They tried to see this Adhyatmika Adhyasa also as a beginning. And this also they tried to see object Adhyasa separate and subject Adhyasa separate. Second point. The third point is worldly instance of Adhyasa requires previous memory, previous samskara, okay, And they told that even this Adhyatmika Adhyasa requires previous Adhyasa, previous Samskara, previous memory. Okay. So, the nature of whatever these three characteristics of worldly instance of Adhyasa, they try to mix up with the Adhyatmika Adhyasa. In a way, they have done another Adhyasa. Okay, if you don't mind my calling it, that they made another Adhyasa. They made another Adhyasa means that the nature of the worldly instance of Adhyasa, they imposed on the Adhyatmika Adhyasa, and they try to interpret it, then whole thing is going confusion. That's why this worldly event, the third point which I have told you, worldly event, worldly instance of Adhyasa, being a Sadi Adhyasa, it is due to the previous samskara. They told that it is a produced Adhyasa. Worldly instance of Adhyasa is caused due to previous samskaras. Therefore, it is a produced Adhyasa. And that thing, it looks like a produced. In fact, even that is not produced. But anyway, it appears like a produced Adhyasa. It has got a cause and effect. Adhyasa is an effect and it requires a cause. I think let us put it as a fourth factor. This fourth factor that taking Adhyasa is a produced one and it has got a cause. This fourth one, I think let us take it a fourth one. 3 points are differences. 3 differences I have told you. There is a fourth difference. Regarding the fourth difference, I tell you one interesting thing. If you listen to this 4, I think you remember this 4, you will understand entire Sachidananda Swamiji and other people, the differences. The difference consists in these 4 points. This fourth point I tell you, they told Adhyasa is a produced one. Adhyasa is a produced one and it needs a cause. Material cause produces Adhyasa. So this character, they try to present regarding the worldly instance of Adhyasa as well as Adhyatmika Adhyasa. In both the things, they want to present it. So here, what Sachidananda Swamiji told is, both are equally wrong. See here, one more point we have to say. In other 3 points, there is a difference between first 3 points and the fourth factor. In first 3 points, the character of worldly instance of Adhyasa are true. There are 3 characters talked about worldly instance of Adhyasa are true in case of worldly instance. But they brought them to the Adhyatmika Adhyasa. That is a mistake. According to us, they may not agree, but according to us, this is a mistake. When it comes to the fourth factor, what Sachidanandendra Swamiji told is that Adhyasa is a production, is not true, whether in case of worldly instance or whether in case of Adhyatmika Adhyasa. Adhyatmika Adhyasa or worldly instance of Adhyasa, both of them are not produced. Both of them do not need Upadana Karanam. They try to present both of them need Upadana Karanam. That's where Mula Vidya comes. In both of them, they need a certain Karana Vidya, a certain Mula Vidya, a certain Karana Vidya, Mula Vidya, Bhava Vidya. Okay. They need a material Vidya. That material Avidya transforms and produces Adhyasa. So this they accepted both in case of worldly instance as well as in Adhyatmika. For both of them, this is the common for them. In the fourth factor, they come similarity. But in first 3 factors, they are imposing what is in the worldly instance upon the Atma. These 4 factors, if you remember, you can understand the difference between Sachidanandendra Swamiji and all others. Okay. Then why I talked about these 4? In the Sugama, Sachidanandendra Swamiji talked about these 4 in different contexts. I put all of them in one place so that it becomes easier for us to understand. Now, Shankaracharya has given this definition. Smriti Rupaha Paratra Purva Drishtava Bhasaha. Now this definition has created a lot of confusion. Different people have tried to interpret differently. Now from this definition, they have taken these all four. Just now I discussed the four. The post-Shankarites, commentators, they have interpreted all these four factors regarding the Adhyatmika Adhyasa, Samsara Adhyasa. So, now Sachidananda Swamiji is explaining this. Shankara has explained this technical way because Shankara has certain purpose. He wanted to give a common definition to the worldly instance Adhyasa, worldly instance of Adhyasa and Adhyatmika Adhyasa. These two Adhyasas have certain differences. Just now we have discussed these three differences. Okay. Three differences are there. Fourth one is totally non-existing, that is a pure imagination of post-Shankarites. Fourth factor doesn't exist anywhere. It exists neither in the worldly instance nor in the Adhyatmika Adhyasa. The fourth factor is a purely imagination in case of both in case of worldly instance of Adhyasa and Adhyatmika Adhyasa. It is a pure imagination of post-Shankarites. But in the first three, it is true in case of worldly instance of Adhyasa, but it doesn't apply to the Atma Adhyasa. Okay, this much is the difference. So, what they told, so here the Shankaracharya's definition, Shankaracharya has given this kind of definition because he wanted to give a definition which is common to the worldly instance of Adhyasa as well as the Atma Adhyasa. He wanted to give a common definition to both. Therefore, certain element like Smriti Rupa word, the Smriti Rupa word, the Purva Drishta word, these two words, Smriti Rupa word, Purva Drishta word, these two words don't apply. Smriti Rupaha and Purva Drishtaha, these two samasas, we are going to discuss, I think it will take 1 or 2 classes, we will discuss elaborately. At the moment you take briefly only this much. Smriti Rupaha one, Purva Drishtaha another. These two words actually applicable to worldly instance of Adhyasa, they are not applicable to Atma Adhyasa. Supposing you remove these two, tentatively you set them aside, what happens? Paratra Parava Bhasaha, that's all. Paratra Avabhasaha. That means appearing, something appearing differently. Appearing differently, that's all. Appearing differently is the essential definition of Adhyasa, essential part of Adhyasa. Appearing differently, this is the basis. Now the other two extra words Shankaracharya added, Smriti Rupaha, Purva Drishtaha. These two words he added because these two words applicable to worldly instance of Adhyasa do not apply to Atma Adhyasa. Yet Shankara added because he wanted to give a common definition to worldly instance of Adhyasa as well as Atma Adhyasa. Okay, that's why the definition looks a little complicated. But see, Swamiji has separated it and explained it so beautifully, clarified it, that I think any child will understand very, very, very clearly. And this definition, if you read the Vyakhyanas, Bhamati, Vivarana, Panchapadika, in the later commentators, highly great scholars, not ordinary people. Each one is like a library, like encyclopedias. They are great acharyas. I tell you, they, because of this worldly instance of Adhyasa, this Adhyasa, they try to adjust it, readjust it, that explanation here, they found very hard, very difficult, and they try to stretch it and impose it. They found it very, very difficult. Ultimately, Adhyasa became very complex topic. Adhyasa became very, very complex topic it became. And unfortunately, I think only Swamiji, I don't know, personally I feel, it has been a great blessing for us that Swamiji has descended on earth. By the Shankara's Anugraha, Sachidananda Swamiji clarified this point. I tell you, before I came to Sachidanandendra Swamiji's books, 8 years I studied Vedanta with Gurumukha and Sanskrit. After knowing Sanskrit and Shankara Bhashya, I found this Adhyasa was a confusing thing. I've been confusing, and I went and particularly I visited some of the important acharyas, personally asked them, They tried to explain. I didn't understand. Again I asked. Sometimes they got irritated with me that I am a very odd fellow. Is too much asking. So ultimately I got fed up and frustrated. When it came to Swamiji, Abba, Sugama, he clarified it. And whatever I discovered, whatever confusion I had, since I have a contrast in I have got two things, confusion and clarity. Therefore I am able to present, means I am trying to present these two so that you will see the difference between them. Otherwise it is so confused I had. So if you remember these four factors, you will understand it very clearly. Okay? Remaining we'll talk in the next thing. Okay, Om. Next talk tomorrow will be Vishuddha Vedanta Sara, and next day. I think today's these four things, please note down and remember them. Anyway, my habit is there, probably I may repeat also. But remember these two, then Adhyasa becomes very, very clear in your life. Not only it becomes clear, it is easy to get rid of Adhyasa and stand as Sakshi. It becomes very easy for you. Okay, Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat.